Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Sportslook, the sports television program for the high plains of West Texas and eastern New Mexico. I'm your host, Doc Elder, and because we had so much fun last week introducing one new head coach, we decided this week, let's introduce two new head coaches. So we've got Amanda Fiefel from Greyhound Softball and Megan De Los Reyes from Greyhound Women's Basketball, all doing overtime, but as always, I'll start out with an Eastern recap. Not much love shown for Greyhound athletics by the Lone Star Conference in the preseason polls. Greyhound football predicted to finish 6th out of 8, and that was the best predicted finish of any team. Greyhound women's cross country predicted to finish 8th. Greyhound men's cross country predicted to finish 12th. Greyhound soccer, 12th. Greyhound volleyball, 18th. Well, let's come back in early November and let's see how those predictions turned out, shall we? Well, that is going to wrap up an Eastern recap, so we'll clear this out and we'll bring in our first guest, Amanda Fiefel, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we welcome to the set for the very first time one of the new coaches at Eastern New Mexico University, Amanda Fiefel. And Coach, welcome to Sportslook.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, Coach, first of all, where are you from and what was the process that got you to the head coaching position at Eastern New Mexico University?
Well, I'm originally from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland. Did my undergrad at UMBC, which is also in Maryland. And then from there, after I graduated, I went into coaching immediately. I went and got my GA, finished that up, and I obviously started the coaching realms, went into George Mason, then to Coppin State, which is a Division I in Baltimore. Then from there, I was the head coach out in West Texas at Clarendon College for 5 years, and then went back closer to home at Appalachian State University. And now I'm currently here at Eastern.
So what was it that was intriguing about the job at Eastern that got you to apply?
Okay, so initially, obviously being from the West Texas area for those 5 years, I really knew the area. A lot of those kids that I had recruited and got transferred out went to the LSC conference. Just the very competitive nature of this conference, the high academics here at Eastern, I think really drew that appeal to me.
Coach, let's go back to your earlier days. Was softball your only sport, or did you grow up playing other sports and gradually gravitate to softball?
Yeah, so my father obviously played multiple sports. He played softball, baseball. My sister took the basketball route. I went the softball route, but I did. I was in swimming for a while. I know a lot of coaches told me that it would help. I was a pitcher, so a lot of with the rotator cuff thing, so I jumped right into swimming. Also played soccer for the endurance side of things, so I primarily stuck with those three. But softball was just one of those things that I felt the most comfortable, most successful. I think skill set wise, I had that I knew that I was on the upward side for that, so I stuck with softball.
And who were the influences on you to help you become the softball player you became?
Probably my father, for sure. With the training, his background in sports, I think definitely him.
And as far as your high school experience, were you part of a really good program? I mean, sometimes people are really good athletes on a program that underachieves and they
Right.
kind of get overlooked, but sometimes you're in the right place at the right time.
Right. So my high school was a 3A, so it was not the biggest in the state of Maryland. We were probably about mid-size, but I think we were in a decent conference in Baltimore County, and so we had some key people, but primarily I think we were just a competitive team. We were very gritty, had a lot of backgrounds of athletic individuals. So I think my freshman year was the best year by far. Had a lot of upperclassmen, a lot of leadership on that team that took us far. And then me coming in as a freshman, being in the circle, we went to the state championship that year. And then from there, I think just generally getting all of the athletes under us, the freshmen and sophomores from there just really buying into the program. And we had a great 4 years there at Catonsville.
Was University of Maryland, Baltimore County? See, I know the acronyms.
Yes, there you
Was
go.
that your only choice that you really considered, or did you have other schools and that was the one you decided on?
Yeah, so I did. I had multiple, did all of my official visits across the country pretty much. I think what really appealed me to UMBC was again, the educational side. It was an honors college, very high academic, definitely closer to home. I knew the area. I think just having my parents being able to be there at the games, really supporting me. And then also, like I said, on the academic side, knowing what I wanted to go into, and they really had the major that I wanted to dive into. So I think that was what appealed me. I know the coaching staff there was very strong on me right out of high school. So they, over the years, you kind of build that rapport with coaches. And I think I really generated that rapport that allowed me to make my decision to end up there.
So, if I had been a coach of an opposing team
Mhm.
and I was putting together a scouting report on Amanda Fiefel, what would the MO be on you as a pitcher?
As a pitcher,
Yeah.
I was very consistent as far as that down in the zone. Good curveball, good screwball, good drop ball. I think it was just a matter of trying to hit me ahead in the count because it could go obviously either way. But on the flip side of that, the offensive side, probably don't pitch to me, if you will. Not to be cocky, but very offensive minded. I was always in the lineup for that. So that
You
would
were a
be the
pitcher that could hit?
correct.
Oh,
Correct. Yeah.
I was a pitcher that couldn't hit, so
Okay.
I was pretty much the stereotype. How did UMBC do when you were in college?
Okay, so our freshman year, same thing. Had a lot of senior leadership, went very far, was in the America East Championship game. Sophomore year, junior year, made it back to playoffs every year. My senior year was the one year that we didn't. We had a couple injuries that cost us late in the season. So other than that, all 4 years were great years. Very competitive, probably top 3, 4 in the conference every year. Always had a great offensive team. I think we were solid defensively as well. So I think my 4 years, if I could go back, I'd do it all over again for sure.
And at what point during your career did you decide that you wanted to coach?
I think immediately. I think seeing the dynamics as far as what our coaches were doing with the individual schedules and putting things together. And then obviously the dynamic of the college game is so complex that I think that really intrigues me. Obviously the building the relationships on and off the field, I think it's very key, especially coaching young females, really being able on that, mental side of things, understanding the game and helping them through it. I think just what I went through, I wanted to give back. And that's why right out of college, I was selected to play internationally and I chose to go and get my GA and start coaching right away. So I think, seeing what my coaches did and how they handled it and the impact that they had on us made me want to do it.
Were you sorry that when you had graduated from college and were considering international ball, were you sorry that softball was not an Olympic sport at that time?
Oh, at that time, yeah. I think they didn't even at that point have pro softball when I had graduated. So that wasn't even an avenue that I could have explored. So it was definitely one of those things that, oh shucks. But at that time, I don't think it really made me that upset because I knew the path that I wanted to take. So it wasn't really an issue for me.
Well, Coach, when you got here to Eastern New Mexico University, it's a two-way process. First, you have to sell yourself to the
Mhm.
young ladies that were on the team, but the young ladies on the team have to sell themselves to you. And what was that process like?
I think the first week we got here, we had individual meetings with the girls, really got to know them as far as what they wanted out of the program, what they thought could move this program back to where it once was. I think all of them are very excited. I think that's the consensus across the board. And so for my coaching staff and I, it was really to dig in and find out, what direction we had to go. I think we're still in that process, obviously, only this being the second week with them. But we started individuals, we've hit the ground running, and I think they've really bought into kind of that concept of what we wanted to build. And we're ready. We're ready to go.
In terms of recruiting, there are obviously different ways that you can approach
Hmm.
recruiting. One is to just recruit freshmen and
Right.
have them as part of your program. One is to recruit nothing but JUCOs,
Hmm.
D1 transfers,
Yeah.
and then there is the third option, which is a mixture of both. If you had your druthers down the road
Mhm.
and when you get a chance to really control your own destiny,
Yeah.
what's your approach going to be?
I think building the program, obviously, freshmen going forward is always a great idea. But I think also with leadership, I think right now we're in a good position on our leadership side. We have a lot of upperclassmen that have had, other than the COVID situation, but I think they've seen kind of where they wanted the program to go. I've asked them all of their opinion. I think it's very important for that. But I think juniors, transfers, they've had that 2-year experience, whether it's at a JUCO or another program. I do have a grad student in my program right now that is playing her 5th year. So I think any type of leadership recruiting wise, but I think just all around building the program where we see fit. Just whether it's on the defensive side, offensive side, in the circle. I think that's, knowing our program and what we need.
Obviously, and I'm not just saying it because you were a pitcher,
Yeah.
but anybody who knows anything about softball, pitching is 90% of the game in softball. So that's obviously priority
Mhm.
one. But when it comes to the rest of the game, are you going to just make sure that you're sound defensively and you're going to win low-scoring games, or are you going to try and get power hitters and just you score runs, we're going to score more?
Right. Well, no, I think there's two answers to that. In the circle, we need to be strong. I think to have a solid team, you need to be strong up the middle, and that's your pitcher, your catcher, your middle infielders, and your center fielder. And if you have a strong middle, you have a strong team. So I think building that core up the middle is good, but we need to reduce runs in order to score runs. And so I think we're going to be more on the defensive side of things to start, and obviously produce our offense from there. So yes to that. I want my pitchers to go in there and dominate, but I do understand that the defense needs to help. And so I think when we build that strong middle and that strong foundation, we'll be fine.
Obviously, things are kind of set for you because of the size of the Lone Star Conference, but
Hmm.
when you get a chance to schedule your own set of ball games,
Hmm.
what do you look for in a non-conference opponent that you want to schedule?
I think anyone's going to prepare us for the LSC. Someone that's going to have that same mindset, whether it's offensive or defensive, whether it's strong pitching, just being able to get in there and have that competitive opponent that is really going to push us. So when we get into the Lone Star, we're prepared. I think that's what we ultimately need.
Okay, and I got to ask you a really
Hmm.
tough question. Is The Wire an accurate reflection of what life is like in Baltimore, Maryland?
No, absolutely not. No, 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 no.
For a lot of people, I'm afraid that's what
No,
most people would know.
no, not at all.
Okay, well, Coach, in all seriousness, we'll finish up with one last question. When people come out to watch you play in the
Mhm.
springtime, if they take away one thing about your team, what do you hope the one takeaway about Greyhound softball is going to be?
The heart, the drive, I think the competitiveness of them. I think they're ready to go, and I think we've already seen that in the 2 weeks that we've had with them. I think they are ready to hit the ground running, and I'm ready to fight with them.
Well, Coach, congratulations on getting the job and can't wait to see you in action next spring.
All right, thank you.
Well, that is going to conclude our first interview segment. So what we're going to do is we're going to clear the set and we're going to bring in Megan De Los Reyes, the new coach of women's basketball, right now. Welcome back to Sportslook, and we bring to the set of Sportslook for the very first time the new head women's basketball coach, Megan De Los Reyes. And Coach, welcome to Sportslook.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Doc. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, Coach, first off, where are you from, and what was the process that got you to be the head coach at Eastern New Mexico University?
Sure. So originally I'm from Dalton, Massachusetts, small town on the western side of the state, all the way by the New York border. About the same size of Port Tallis, actually maybe a little bit smaller. So I'm used to the small town area. Grew up playing multiple sports, and I settled on basketball middle to high school. I ended up going to Boston College for my undergraduate degree. And that was the one school I wasn't recruited to. I have kind of a unique story in that sense. I was going to maybe play basketball in college and decided to make the academic decision, go to Boston College, was pre-med, had all those tough classes, and I missed basketball so much. Had no idea what it would be like not being an athlete. And so I had to get myself involved right away. went over to the women's basketball team, became a practice player and manager for them. Started working summers there, worked in the men's basketball office during the summers, camps, clinics, got my hand kind of in everything. Loved the behind the scenes of basketball, and the coaches there actually helped me use my remaining eligibility to play at a Division II school in Alaska, University of Alaska Anchorage. So we had an outstanding year there. When I was finished, I was actually asked to stay and be a graduate assistant. And so that was my first taste of college coaching. Loved it. I love the recruiting aspect that you can collect your team and you can work towards a common goal for 4 years. Had an awesome time. I ended up moving back to Massachusetts and got into high school coaching for 4 years with a great high school program, Hoosick Valley High School, also in Western Massachusetts. We were very competitive in the state, got to the state championship twice. After that, I said, hey, you know what? I want to make this my career. I want to go back into college coaching. And I was fortunate enough to link up with a head coach at Southern Oregon University, an NAIA school in Ashland, Oregon. And he was actually up at Alaska Anchorage right after my group of coaches. And so we had that common connection. He brought me out. I had 3 years there, made it all the way to the national championship game for NAIA. It was amazing. And then I got fortunate enough to get a assistant coaching job at Chico State in Northern California for the past 3 years. And we made a big jump from 12 to 13, and then we jumped to 18 and 11, the year before COVID, much like Eastern New Mexico, we had to sit out last year, and that was unfortunate. But what was fortunate about it was I was offered this job here at Eastern New Mexico, and I couldn't be happier.
So was basketball always your sport growing up, or did you play numerous sports and basketball just was the one you graduated to?
I played just about any sport I could possibly imagine, even those that we could make up in the playground. So I was very active as a child, started in, dance, ballet, and gymnastics. Was told I was too tall to be a gymnast. And if you look at me standing, that's shocking because I'm not too tall. But then I kind of made my way, had to make a decision between team sports or individual sports, and I went with the team sports. So I played a lot of soccer growing up. That was actually my favorite sport for quite a while. And then I centered in on basketball as I got into middle and high school.
So who were the big influences on you in terms of athletics?
There are so many, and a lot of coaches I had. Even starting from growing up in that small town of Dalton, Mass, I had so many great mentors as coaches, from my first coach, Lou Allegroni, who taught me how to shoot, to my high school coach, Boog Powell, who ended up passing away a few years after I was done playing. He was the one that taught me about relationships. We were his daughters, and he did everything for us, and that's what I hope to bring to coaching in terms of relationships. That's my number one. I had an outstanding coach in college as well, Tim Mosier, who he was just an absolute genius on the basketball court and really knew how to build a culture. And that's something that I think is absolutely profound and important in any program that we have. And then, the coaches that I worked for at Hoosick Valley, Ron Wojcik, he was a great mentor for me. Alex Carlson at Southern Oregon University, he taught me what it takes to get to a championship game and how hard you have to compete to get there. And then Brian Fogel, who I just worked for the past 3 years, and man, did he teach me about all aspects of basketball and just gave me so much responsibility and allowed me to have a hand in every single aspect of the program. And he just really developed me into the head coach that I can be today. So I'm thankful to all of those influences that I've had throughout the years.
And what was it when the job opened at Eastern? What was it intriguing about the job that got you to put your name into consideration?
Well, first and foremost, if you look at Eastern New Mexico in writing, fantastic program right off the bat. Coach Prock has done an absolutely fantastic job of really building this program into a powerhouse program. And so that success is absolutely intriguing, of course, for anybody who's looking to step into a program as a head coach. Being in the Lone Star Conference And maybe this sounds biased coming from me because I'm in it now, but being from other Division II conferences, I know that the Lone Star Conference is one of the top, if not the top conference in Division II women's basketball. And so I wanted to be a part of that. I want to be able to play the best competition night in and night out. And it prepares you and it forces you to bring your A game every night. And it forces you to get better every single day. And so I love that. The competitor in me says, yes, let's take the best we can get. So that was just on paper. When I got down here for my on-campus interview, it went to another level, because to me, it's all about the people that you surround yourself with, and those people that you get to hang out with every day and work alongside every day, and especially the players that you get to teach every day. And I could not be more fortunate to walk into a program with this level of young women that I get to work with, the amazing employees that I have and colleagues on my side that I get to work with, an amazing new athletic director in Dr. Weir that I'm fortunate enough to be his first hire. Thank goodness, because he is an awesome, awesome leader. And just the professors and community also that I got to meet. The few of them I got to meet just made such a wonderful representation of what Portales is all about and the support that is there already established for women's basketball. So once I got foot on campus and I got to meet the people in the buildings, that's what really sold it for me.
Coach, when you got here, you had to sell yourself to the players. You had to convince them, hey, this is, I'm a person you want to play for.
Right.
But they had to sell themselves to you. And it's like, I really want to be here. I really want to play for you. How did that process work out?
First of all, I'm not a very good saleswoman because what you see is what you get, right? And so I'm very much about being genuine, being who you are. Everybody has something to provide and to impact a team. And so what they see from me, I told them on the interview, is what you're going to get. So I want you to be in the know. We're going to communicate. We're going to be on the same page. And I asked the same of them. And the thing is, Doc, I could not be more appreciative of the level of commitment and the level of respect that they've come into this program and maintained in this program, because they've had a rough go of it. Everybody in the Lone Star Conference got to play last year, and that is really, really difficult on the student athletes. And so just having that type of strong mentality to come back and to stay committed and to stay in shape and have a new coaching staff and to be open to learning from somebody new and going through so many transitions, I tell them every day that I appreciate them. And so I only got to meet a few on my interview, but even that small representation, I knew right away, wow, we've got something special here. And from day one, when I got to meet all of these girls here on campus, gosh, I just get so excited because of the young women that they are already and the young women that they're going to become when they leave the program.
Obviously, more will be determined when you actually get to practice with the whole team in October. But
Sure.
Looking down the road, when you get the players you want and you've had a chance to really establish yourself, what's going to be the modus operandi of Greyhound women's basketball? Going to be
Sure.
defense? Going to try and just score more points than the other team? What's your strategy?
So first and foremost, these are the players that I want to have. The 12 that I have on the roster, I would not trade them for anybody. Those are my players. And so I would not trade it for anything in the world. So I'm starting off absolutely great with who I have, and I feel so wonderful about it. And they work so hard, and they are so driven. And I'm going to tell you what, they have a chip on their shoulder. They do. They're coming in with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder, which is great because I have that too. So coming in, I guess, competition, competing, defense is going to be our backbone. So we are a defensive-minded team. And in terms of how we're going to play, we might keep some things in our back pocket. We're not quite sure what we want to announce, what we'll be playing, but defense is going to be key. We're going to play fast. We're going to transition and get some easy baskets. So we're going to push the pace. We're going to push the tempo. We're going to make people run the track meet with us. So that's a little glimpse onto what kind of basketball is going to be fun to watch, and I promise you we're going to outwork other teams. That's what we'll be all about for Greyhound women's basketball.
Well, Coach, I saved the most difficult question for last. From Massachusetts.
Yes.
Greatest group, Aerosmith or Boston?
Boston. Boston. I would say Boston.
There
That's
you
a
go.
tough
That
question,
is a
but
very tough question.
I'm gonna say Boston. Yeah, absolutely.
Good choice. That would be my choice, but I was,
All right,
you're
we
the
agree
coach, so
on
you
it.
can pick. Well, Coach, it's a pleasure. I had the privilege of actually being a part of your interview, and you just impressed the living daylights out of all of us. So
Thank you.
we can't wait to see your product in action.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you so much, Doc.
All right, well, that is going to wrap up the interview portion of Sportslook. So what we'll do is we'll clear the set, and I'll finish up with an overtime right now. As a lifetime baseball fan, I am familiar with the concept of the intentional walk. But last week on Thursday night, I was introduced to a brand new concept, the concept of the intentional block. It happened in a Dodgers game against the Padres. It went into 15 innings. In the bottom of the 15th inning, the Dodgers had a 2-run lead and 2 outs, but a Padre got to second base, at which point the Dodger pitcher looked in at home plate and said, "Hey, I'm going to commit an intentional block and move the guy deliberately over to third base." After the game was over, the Dodger pitcher was asked, "Why did you do that?" And he said, "Well, I was convinced that the guy on second base was stealing the signs. I didn't want the batter to know what pitch was coming, and I wanted to protect the 2-run lead. So I conceded a run by moving the guy over to third base." That is a great strategy. And the fact that the batter on the very next pitch hit a 2-run home run and tied the game up should do nothing to diminish the brilliance of that particular observation. Well, that is going to wrap up an overtime, and that will wrap up an episode of Sportslook. I would like to thank my two guests, Amanda Fiefel from Greyhound Softball and Megan De Los Reyes from Greyhound Women's Basketball. Had a floor crew directed for the very first time by Miss Bella. So for all those aforementioned people, this is Doc Elder saying, so long.